Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Commissioners' regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, and it is 6 p.m. City Attorney, would you please lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance?
Our Heavenly Father, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We pray that our work this evening will find favor in your sight. This we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Brooks,
Here.
Vice Mayor Taglerini.
Here.
Commissioner Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Here.
Commissioner Gavayi,
Present.
all present.
Next is the approval of the agenda. If the commission is okay and no one has any issues, I'd like to ask that we move item 12D to just after item 9. And this is the Tampa Bay Psychology Services. Dr. Benson is going to be here, and if we could move that up, does anyone object?
So before public hearings?
It'll go right before public hearings,
Right
yes.
before- Okay,
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have a problem.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gavayi,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
yes?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
And there are no proclamations, so next on the agenda is presentations, and I will hand this over to Chief Belk.
Hey, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission. Thank you for a few moments of your time this evening. Again, what we like to do is just come to the commission twice a year with new hires, promotions, years of service. That way we're not bogging up the agenda. But so I would like to start with our new hires. It's been very difficult in the fire service trying to recruit new employees, and fortunately, Madeira Beach, we've been trucking along. We've hired 4, and those 4 are firefighter EMT Joseph Calderero, hired 2/19/24, and he is currently in medic school, and pending him will be his mother, Pam. Next is firefighter paramedic Christian Green, hired January 6, 2025, with 4.5 years of experience and former Marine.
Good.
Next is firefighter EMT Kavaris Service, hired 11/4/24. He comes to us with 1.5 years of previous fire service and is also a former Marine and currently in paramedic school. Pending him is his wife, Lisan. Our 4th new hire, unfortunately, ironically enough, is at live fire training tonight with the truck company, so they're not able to be here. And that happens like once a year, so I didn't want them to miss that. Next up is promotions. First is John Mordelite. John Mordelite was promoted to Deputy Chief of the Madeira Beach Fire Department on October 1st, 2024. He came to us with 28 years of experience, previously achieving the rank of Assistant Chief with his former department. Throughout his career, he has earned numerous certifications, including a bachelor's degree in fire administration, Fire Officer 1 and 2, Fire Instructor 1, multiple FEMA Incident Command certifications, and the State of Florida paramedic license. He has also attended classes at the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and participated in many conferences across the country. In his role at Madeira Beach Fire Department, Deputy Chief Mordelite is the Emergency Medical Services Officer, Operations Officer, and Training. And he's also the department's in-house tech specialist. Deputy Chief Mordelite was unofficially promoted a few days early to assist with preparations for Hurricane Helene. During Hurricane Milton, he was instrumental in setting up MBFD's alternate emergency operations center, ensuring mobile internet access and maintaining communication with Pinellas County Dispatch during an unprecedented Barrier Island evacuation. His promotion marks a new era of success for both him and the department as Madeira Beach Fire Department continues to set higher standards for exceptional community service. So Deputy Chief Mordelite will be pinned by his wife, Tara. Next is Michael Wazalewski. Madeira Beach Fire Department held a lieutenant promotional assessment on December 17th, 2024. It comprised of a written examination on tactical scenarios, conflict resolution, and public presentation. The department had 3 very qualified candidates with scores literally just points away from each other. The Madeira Beach Fire Department is pleased to announce the promotion of Michael Wazalewski to Lieutenant of B Shift. With this promotion, Lieutenant Wazalewski will also take on the role of the department's Assistant EMS Coordinator, and pinning Mike will be his wife, Meadow. And Porter. Don't go anywhere. Come on back. So next up is Firefighter of the Year. Madeira Beach Fire Department is proud to announce that former firefighter paramedic, current lieutenant, Michael Wazalewski has been named 2020 Firefighter of the Year. Since joining the department in 21, Lieutenant Wazalewski has set a high standard for professionalism, hard work, and teamwork. Known for his outstanding work ethic and positivity, he consistently goes above and beyond to support his fellow firefighters and serve the Madeira Beach community. In just a few short years as a firefighter with us, Mike has completed the acting driver, acting lieutenant programs, and became a Marine operator while also completing his bachelor's degree. Before becoming a firefighter, he served in the United States Marine Corps from 2011 to 15, deploying to the Helmand province, Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom in 2012. So with that, Michael Wazalewski is also our 2025 Firefighter of the Year. Next up is years of service. As you all know, I'm also supposed to attend the Reddington Shores Commission meetings. I sent Fire Marshal Perez over there, moved the years of service to the end, hoping he would make it back in time. And if he's not, I'll make sure he does get his pin. But first, I'll say with 5 years of dedicated service is Joanna Whitfield. She is currently exploring the acting driver engineer program. And Joe also has the great distinction of being the first firefighter that I ever hired. He's not here. All right, and next is Fire Marshal Raul Perez with 10 years of dedicated service to Madeira Beach. He also became the first fire marshal for Madeira Beach Fire Department. And in addition to that, he also serves as the secretary for the Pinellas County Fire Marshals Group. And additionally, Fire Marshal Perez successfully obtained the AAA grant that you all will be hopefully approving this evening. Unfortunately, oh, look at that timing. Okay. Perfect. And that is it for presentations.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is public comment. Public participation is encouraged. If you are addressing the commission, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record and the organization or group you represent. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and do not include any topic on the agenda. Public comment on agenda items will be allowed when they come up. If you would like someone at the city to follow up on a comment or question made at the meeting, you may fill out a comment card with the contact information and give it to the city manager. Comment cards are available at the back table in the commission chambers. Completing a comment card is not mandatory. For any quasi-judicial public hearings that might be on the agenda, an affected person may become a party to a quasi-judicial proceeding and can be entitled to present evidence at the hearing, including the sworn testimony of witnesses and relevant exhibits and other documentary evidence, and to cross-examine all witnesses by filing a notice of intent to be a party with the Community Development Director not less than 5 days prior to the hearing. Do we have any public comment for items that are not on the agenda?
Hi, Bob Bello, 13301 Gulf Lane. I just wanted to highlight, and I took some notes here, because I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of some of the progress that I've seen in the building department and zoning departments made regarding the permitting process after the hurricanes. I'd like to share what my experience has been and compare it against other jurisdictions which I own property in and what I experienced there, so you have something, to compare against. I really think the progress that the building and zoning departments has made needs to be recognized. So starting off in Madeira Beach, my first permit that I submitted was on 10/16. Took 6 weeks to receive it, as I received it December 2nd. Second one I submitted, which was on the same day, 10/16, I received it on 12/18, so 8 weeks. While at first that might not sound that great, I think you have to take into consideration and compare that to other municipalities during those days. We know Treasure Island, Indian Rocks, other jurisdictions close to us are a mess. And during that time frame, they weren't even issuing permits. Now, while I don't have firsthand experience with those municipalities to share with you, I'd like to share my experience with Pasco County, as I own a bunch of property there. Well, let's start off. Pasco had meetings looking to dissuade the residents from even considering rebuilding in areas that were impacted. It was really a horrible meeting to be at, to be quite honest. The meeting I attended here with Robin and Marcy speaking, discussed options and sought input from residents. So completely different tone and experience. In Pasco, I didn't receive my substantial damage letters from the county. The earliest one I got was November 15th. The latest was December 10th. So there's no way to start the permitting process until I had the letters. And keep in mind, Pasco County has a much bigger building department. And a lot less properties were impacted, maybe 5% of their properties. Where Madeira Beach, realistically, every property was impacted, right? So I feel Madeira Beach did a lot better in the early days than Pasco, in my opinion, with benefit of hindsight. I mean, everybody was up in arms in the beginning, but as we step back and take a look at it, here's the experience I had, and these are actual dates. I didn't want to misspeak to anything. Now, in Pasco, once I got to substantial damage letters, it was very confusing on what they're going to require, and it did keep changing. Much like some people will complain about what happened here, but I think every municipality, in all fairness, had to figure it out. So everyone was delayed in the early stages. But being Pasco is more delayed in issuing the substantial damage letters than Madeira, I wasn't able to submit a permit in Pasco or until January 24th. And keep in mind, I had one of my properties, the permit on December 2nd, and it was closed out before January 1st. So big difference there. But going back to Pasco, once I did submit one to them, and this is January 24th, it took them 12 more business days to issue the permit because all the paperwork was correct. Okay, not bad. However, on the other permit, it took them 11 days to review it. They found a small issue, and they said it's going to be another 11 business days. I'm still waiting. So that's kind of the experience I had there. Now, let's contrast that with the recent, two recent permits I submitted to Madeira Beach on the 27th. So a little bit after that, right? I was told 7 days later, I was told on one of them there was a small issue. It was corrected that day, resubmitted. The next day, I had my permit. Not 2 weeks later, like Pasco County. My other permit was submitted on the 29th and was issued 4 days later by Madeira Beach. So it's just getting better, better, and better, right? To me, this shows amazing progress. We're doing better in turning these permits around than a county that has a much bigger building department was not impacted as greatly as we were. I think that needs to be recognized. There's a lot of good people working for the city, putting their hearts into their jobs for the residents. My experiences as I've come down to get answers at the staff sessions, which have been implemented here at Chambers, has always been positive and helpful. Those who decided to implement those staff sessions, helping the residents, should be commended. It was a great idea. And like I said, it's been very helpful. Will there be things we could always tweak and improve on? Absolutely. So as long as the city's open and receiving constructive feedback, I know we can continue to improve and be the gold standard for the Pinellas Barrier Islands if we're not there already. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any additional public comment? With no additional public comment, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Has the board had the opportunity to review the minutes? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Do we have a
Second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner Gavalle,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
With nothing on the consent agenda, we will move on to the Tampa Bay Psychology Services LLC agreement for psychological evaluation and counseling services of fire personnel. And we have Chief.
Yes.
Thank
Good
you.
evening again. This is the same contract that was presented to everybody at the workshop. Again, the intent is, unfortunately, Tampa Bay Psychology lost the grant funding that provided this service free of charge for every single fire department in Pinellas County. And I know there was a couple questions at the workshop, so Dr. Benson is actually here to kind of give an overview and answer any questions that anybody may have.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes. Can you hear me okay? All right, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So I am happy to answer any additional questions if I do not address your points. Tampa Bay Psychology Associates is, I am CEO and Chief Psychologist of this company. We are the first company in the state of Florida, and actually, I believe also the first company in the United States that serves as a one-stop shop that assists with first responder mental health. This is a concierge practice, and what that means is that we go into municipalities. We work on a consultative level with administrative bodies in order to best support membership from a retention perspective, resiliency perspective, or how do we recover from traumatic exposures? And how do we continue working towards preventative care so that, again, we can retain membership, retain employees, avoid workers' comp claims, avoid attrition, so on and so forth. And ultimately, we come in and we create curated treatment plans for these individuals. So they are getting very unique care that has not previously existed with traditional insurance or EAP products. Part of our role also goes into work directly with the agencies when they experience an agency-wide trauma, a community-based trauma, or an individual level trauma. And so what that means, an agency-wide trauma and individual trauma, this might actually be the unexpected death or demise of one of their peers. This might be a suicide event that has occurred. It might be a very traumatic exposure, such as a death of a child in a very dramatic way. Or, I mean, speaking to the beach cities, I am a beach resident that watched the destruction that occurred. This is an agency that was face first with something very unexpected in an event that, quite frankly, none of us were alive for the last 100-year storm. So I don't know if any of us actually expected what occurred, and they were right there in it. And so our company has contracted with all over Pinellas County. We also carry contracts with the entire Pasco Public Safety with similar contracts that Madeira is trying to fill and pull for their membership. Now, what's very meaningful that Chief mentioned was we were one of two exclusive companies that worked with the Mental Health for Heroes Foundation that utilized federal grant funding to cover the cost of mental health services for agencies that didn't have funding built into their budgets. A lot of times that could be some of our smaller agencies. So when that grant funding went away, it just ran out from the foundation itself. We didn't have the resources to be able to continue covering care for our Madeira Fire members that were seeking out treatment for various issues, PTSD, or just overall wellness and resiliency in light of hurricane exposure, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really amazing when Chief called me to say, how can we continue supporting these individuals? And we've already come out, done station visits, really provided a network of support, have assisted lieutenants and administration. How do you reach us on a 24-hour basis? That's something that doesn't exist for first responders. So at any point in time, if there is a first responder from Madeira Beach that is struggling, they can get a hold of a clinical provider, not an on-call service, but a clinical provider, likely their therapist or someone that can become their therapist and their clinician at any time, day or night. Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or tonight at 2 a.m. if they need me. So it's really amazing. We have 3 office locations. We have 9 professionals, all of them with various certifications. So again, I cannot speak to the quality of care and dedication that my team brings in and the accessibility and the support that can be offered. So I don't know if any of you guys have questions. Oh, I think one meaningful thing that you all should know, which bravo to the city of Madeira, you guys would be the first beach city that would actually build this and approve it in their budgets for their first responders serving the community. That is huge. It's been so hard for me to get the beach cities on board with such an important program. So if this is approved and ultimately serves to continue supporting our guys and gals with Madeira Beach Fire, you guys definitely get to take that nod of appreciation from me. I know from them that you are the first beach city to be able to prioritize this for them. That's amazing. Can I answer any questions for any of you?
Let me ask first if we have any public comment. All right, then, commissioners.
I don't have any questions.
I believe the board is very supportive of this action. When it was brought to us at the workshop, my only question was, and it was probably, I'm going to call it a pushback, but my only pushback was, how do we determine if someone isn't really cut out for the role of EMS or fire? How does, the worst thing I would want is someone, I mean, you bring up suicide, to be exposed to things that they just are not capable of handling. I mean, you're not allowed to share information with the administrative side. So how do you figure that out? And, is that part of the program? I guess that's the bigger question.
Yes, sir. Actually, that's a wonderful question, and it's one I've been asked every time I form a new relationship. So yes, one of the reasons this program is so successful is because we do observe confidentiality from the legal perspective, the ethical perspective, but also very unique is this. My company does build in the service. It's the first time that administrative bodies have the ability to consult and have access to a psychological expert to best advise or to get options for their membership that is not punitive or misapplied. So to your question of what happens if we do have someone that really is ill-suited for this profession, and realistically, that can be predicted sometimes before the employment process through pre-employment psychological evaluations, which are beginning to be applied in the fire service, but not across the board. That's been a standard of practice for law enforcement for decades now, but it's becoming standard in fire service. But if, let's say this is a member and they are a current employee, they've been on for a few years, maybe they have gone through some events unexpectedly that have compromised their ability to adjust effectively and continue in this capacity. A scope of our work is on healthy transitions out of the fire service. And so we actually do have working relationships with other career counselors that come on board that help build in healthy retirement practices when we have fire members that are actually leaving the fire service, and we want to make sure that they're not at risk for suicide. Or if we have current members that really are ill-suited and should be moving on, we do have interventions specifically designed to help them build insight to that and access to other career options to gracefully exit the fire service and find something better suited for them. The other component of that, a lot of times these individuals might be acutely distressed or in an unhealthy adjustment or coping place. Our working relationships with various treatment centers, not only just our own professionals, but higher levels of care can help restore occupational fitness before it becomes problematic. So that's all part of that resiliency model too, and that prevention. We can actually work on preventing behavioral issues, preventing employee issues, liability problems by transitioning and curating treatment plans for individual members. I hope that answered the
No,
question.
that's perfect. And
Okay,
I
good.
just wanted them to understand that, which it
Perfect.
really wasn't brought out. And my only other comment would really be for the chief is that with anything that's brought to the board, I more and more want to make sure that we're looking for any grants that are available. And I would think that this would be a perfect opportunity to bring a grant to the firehouse.
Yes. There, if I may. There is, I know Dunedin Fire and I believe I know Dunedin Fire has been able to channel and access opioid task force resources through the county. And that's something that I have assisted them with in terms of constructing the contract. So the language could be used to access those funds. Now, I don't know if you have any other grant resources that you're going to look at, but that's the one idea that I have been aware of.
Honestly, just trying to think outside the box, and I don't know how well it'll be attended this year, but last year, the proceeds of our 5K goes to the Franciscan Center. And it's a retreat. I've attended it myself. It's 4 or 5 days, and it's not something you go to over and over again. It's more of a one-time visit, and then you go seek further treatment. And I was actually trying to think of ways to fund this year, and I said, and well, maybe moving forward, we can take the proceeds from the 5K, help offset the cost with Tampa Bay Psychology.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I mean,
really.
last year we gave the Franciscan Center, I believe it was $14,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not really asking you to do that. I'm just asking that you work with Robin and.
Oh, absolutely,
And
yeah.
see what we can do, because I would imagine there's state grants available, there's philanthropic grants available. But we just need to do the legwork and the paperwork and know who to reach out to. I think there was a resource in one of the most recent meetings about some grant writers, and if we can get that, we may be able to get it on a perpetual, just a
Absolutely.
annual basis
I
that will
don't-
help offset some of the cost. And that's not my priority. The cost is not, but any time we can help the residents
Mhm.
with anything, I don't care if it's buying a truck
Mhm.
or this,
I mean,
we need to try to.
In the agenda
that.
packet, you'll see the AAA grant.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it's not a high dollar grant, but
Right.
it's something that's going to be beneficial for us.
Well,
And
it's-
it's something that could even be used at the Wednesday morning markets.
Right,
Yeah,
and it's,
some of that
and it's
stuff.
open-ended, so you never, so, we understand that, and we want you to use it as,
Yeah,
I'm
be a little
sure.
fiscal responsible. I
Yeah.
completely understand that.
So that's all my comments. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's great for our city and also our firefighters, especially the 24/7 care, where they can reach out at any time, any day, and be able to get some help that they need. So fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
So glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Chief Balk spoke very highly of your organization last workshop. My only question, when you spend time with these patients, do you have any way to gauge your success with them? Is there any mechanism that you use to basically see any improvements in their behavior, attitude?
Absolutely. So I would tell you, greatest rule of thumb internally is the best success is when the person reschedules an appointment, because that's a person that's finding benefit from the conversations and the interventions that they are applying. And certainly clients are very encouraged to be active and provide that feedback, because that's part of the introspective growth process. Now, word of mouth is also our best feedback. And I think certainly for me to be able to say our company has expanded such that we're in multiple counties across the state of Florida, and Pinellas County is our highest concentrated membership. I think that also speaks to the word of mouth that has carried on. Certainly, Chief and I came to be in contact because of people using our services and saying this can't go away. So word of mouth is one of our biggest objectives of success. Now, beyond that, administratively, we get feedback when administrators say, we are happy because our employees are happy. Happy employees are more productive employees, and we certainly get to avoid issues that cost a lot of money on the front end or cause concern. And then on top of that, we do also have assessment processes sometimes where we can actually objectively measure symptom changes, or maybe getting someone on medication and we can really objectively observe the changes in functioning that are happening.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, sir?
Well, I'm glad that you came today and were able to speak to everyone. I shared with Chief when we had the conversation. I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with the fire department. And last year, Pinellas County lost 2 firemen, local here to us, not in Madeira, but local to us, to suicide. And having those conversations when that happened with the fire department and being able to have a glimpse of what they live with what they do, mental health is just so important. And I think going to see a psychologist, anybody can see a psychologist, but seeing a psychologist that specializes in the field of first responders that's a game changer, it appears to me, based off of all the conversations that I've had, and I support 100%. Now, I'd love to understand why they pulled your funding, and if there would be a way to get that money back through our lobbyist, if we could add that to his list of things to do, because having the funding, if there are other beach communities that aren't willing to put the money out, maybe they can't afford to, it's in their budget, to be able to be supportive of their first responders, isn't that really something that the state should get behind? So I support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the, oh, I'm on the wrong page. The Psychology Services LLC agreement.
And do we have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabaghi,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you all. I really appreciate you.
Next on the agenda is public hearings, ordinance 2025-04, plan development, first reading and public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and read that ordinance. This is ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 110 zoning, Article 5, Districts, Division 10, PD, Plan Development of the city's Land Development Code, providing further information on intent and purpose, including dimensional regulations, specifying requirements for the application for PD zoning, clarifying the review criteria from the local planning agency, clarifying the review criteria from the Board of Commissioners, including standing operating adjustments in changes of development plan, and including options for time extensions, providing for conflict codification, severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2025-04 by title only. I'm not sure if Jenny's got a presentation or not, but
Oh, just a brief summary. I know that we've gone over this in multiple workshops. Ordinance 2025-04, the plan development, amends the PD section in the code to really fix inconsistencies that we have currently, to reference the Fort Pinellas countywide rules, and to update the standards in that division to current practices. This ordinance also went to Planning Commission on February 3rd and was recommended approval.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners, comments, questions?
Hi, Jenny. Thank you for bringing this. I don't think that there's anything really new here. I support everything. I don't support the height in the Johns Pass Village is 15 feet higher than what we have, but that was voted on and approved, so I can't do anything about that, so.
I'd also like to point out that there is in the PD section, under section 110-387, which is uses permitted, the last paragraph there, that PDs in traditional village, commercial core, boardwalk, and low-intensity mixed-use character districts in the Johns Pass Village Activity Center won't be able to get additional height through the PD process. So there is some additional restrictions for some character districts in
But
Johns Pass Village.
That Appendix D says that the maximum height
Yes, that
is 15
doesn't
feet
change,
higher than anything
but
that's
they can't-
existing.
but they can't go higher than that, even through the PD process.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any comments?
I have just one quick question. We have not adopted the Pinellas County vulnerability, right?
No, they're still working on that vulnerability assessment.
Okay, and the vulnerability elevation or DFE, basically, we have 4 foot of freeboard right now based on FEMA.
Yes.
But when it comes to vulnerability, would we have any freeboard over and above that, or would that be?
It would
or
just be the
DFE?
4, and then if the board wanted to change that in the future, that's obviously something that we could talk about. But we have not received, they're still ongoing in that process right now.
Okay, thank you.
No comments. Do we have a motion?
I move the approval of ordinance 2025-04, plan development.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr, Commissioner Gavayi.
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is ordinance 2025-05, temporary shelters on residential property, first reading and public hearing. City Attorney?
Mayor Commissioners, this is ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 94, floodplain management, Division 10, flood-resistant development, Article 1, buildings and structures. Section 94-103, manufactured homes and recreational vehicles of the city's land development code, providing for the use of recreational vehicles as temporary shelters on residential properties following a natural emergency, providing for conflict, codification, severability, and providing for an effective date. This is the first reading and public hearing for ordinance 2025-05.
All right. And we talked about this at the BOC workshop, but in Florida statutes, that prohibits the municipalities from prohibiting the placement of one temporary shelter after a declaration of emergency from the governor. And then also the National Flood Insurance Program, the NFIP, has standards in place as well. One of the things being that recreational vehicles must be fully licensed and ready for highway use. So this is really taking the Florida statutes and our requirements there, along with the NFIP's requirements, and putting them in our floodplain section of the code.
Do we have any public comment?
Good evening. My name is Shania Campbell, and I live at 1742 30th Street South in St. Pete.
Can you speak up, please, so we can hear you?
Okay. I'm a student in the Public Policy and Administration program at St. Petersburg College. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today about Ordinance 2025-05, which allows residents to use recreational vehicles as temporary shelters following a declared state of emergency. Before this meeting, I had the pleasure of speaking with Ms. Rowan and Mr. Morris from Community Development. They did an excellent job explaining the Florida statute and the National Flood Insurance Program's requirements involved with temporary shelters, and as well as the Planning Commission's recommendation for a 5-foot setback from the curb and the process for registering an RV with the City of Madeira Beach. Their insight reinforced how well thought out this ordinance is in balancing the need for temporary housing with safety and planning considerations. As a student, I've studied how policies like this impact communities, and I believe that this ordinance is a necessary step in helping residents recover after disasters. Natural emergencies like hurricanes can leave families without a safe place to live, and rebuilding takes time. By allowing people to stay on their property in a temporary shelter, this ordinance provides stability while they work to restore their homes. This policy also aligns with Florida Statute 166, Section 0335, ensuring that the city follows state guidelines while prioritizing the needs of residents. It establishes clear requirements such as ensuring RVs are licensed and connected to utilities and do not pose safety hazards. It also sets a reasonable time limit of 36 months or until a home is rebuilt, so that this is a temporary solution rather than a long-term issue. As someone who hopes to work in government, I see how ordinances like this can directly impact people's lives. It is important that Madeira Beach remains proactive in supporting its residents during difficult times, and I encourage the city to continue finding ways to make recovery more accessible and to ensure that those affected by natural disasters have the resources that they need. Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment? Commissioners?
Mayor, if I could just
Oh.
jump in here, I want to discuss the issue of what the Planning Commission recommended, which is different than what is here. Jenny, do you want to set the background on that? Because
Yeah,
there was discussion of it by the speaker, and I want to make sure that everyone is clear as to what we're doing and what we're not doing in the ordinance that we have here today.
yes, thanks for bringing that up. At the Planning Commission, we discussed where the RVs would be placed on the properties. And one thing that was brought up is a 5-foot setback from the edge of curb, as well as the RVs being on the person's property. So after talking to Attorney Trask, he advised that we do not go forward with a 5-foot setback, just making that more stringent than the Florida statutes.
So let me just, a little more clarity there. The statute says we absolutely cannot prohibit a recreational vehicle from being used as a temporary shelter if these three criteria in the statute are met. What I was concerned about when I heard that the planning board wanted to add this additional criteria that the RV had to be at least 5 foot back on the property line, there may be situations where that will not work. And I'm afraid that if we add an additional restriction or condition that is not in the state statute, that we may be challenged on that. And not only that, I think you're going to cut out a lot of people. We have very small lots in Madeira Beach. And if you cut out another 5 feet, we may not be able to use that for a recreational vehicle. So even though the planning board has recommended that, my opinion as your city attorney is that we should not include that because the statute does not authorize that. So the ordinance that's before you, although it did add the language in there about you must have it on your residential property, that's a given in my mind in the statute, but we did not include that 5-foot setback requirement. So. Now, that is noted in the memorandum, by the way, at
Yes.
the very bottom of your
Mhm.
memorandum,
Yeah.
just so that you know. Okay.
Just clarifying, what it says here under recommendation is not
That's the planning board's
that's the
recommendation.
planning board. You're recommending minus the 5-foot setback.
Correct. And we've prepared it without the 5-foot
Okay.
setback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I'm in favor of this 36 months, I think, for people to have a chance. And I like that. We're not going to restrict them to 5 feet setback, so.
I
I'm on
agree.
board.
I would agree 100% with Mr. Trask and with the 36 months. I do want to point out, however, in the NFIP, it mentions 180 consecutive days. Just wanted to make sure that that didn't matter. I mean, we're doing 36 months or the date of occupancy.
Yes,
So-
and that comes from the Florida statute,
Yeah.
word by word.
But
So
the-
that's-
but it
that's
also-
where that comes from.
For fewer than 180 consecutive days, which that's not necessarily realistic. If you get started in your reconstruction, it may take you some time, so, to even break ground, let alone, so I support exactly what you've written here.
Commissioners?
I also agree. I believe this ordinance will help our citizens minus the 5-foot setback. And the 36 months should be in place. So, yeah, I'm for this ordinance, as I said, minus the setback.
So if someone's not able to construct their units or sell, would there be any mechanism for any extension requests after 36 months?
So the statute does not provide for that. The ordinance will not provide for that. So if you wanted to make that change sometime in the future, I'm sure that we would want to have the floodplain manager that we talk to review that request. It's probably not something you want to do. You eventually want to get all these recreational vehicles out of your city so you get back to normal.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But there are people that may be in dire need of maintaining their RV because of their housing situation.
They have to have their building permit. All the other requirements have to be made. They have to make a good faith effort to rebuild or renovate their structure, including but not limited to applying for a building permit, submitting a plan or design, and obtaining a construction obtaining a construction list. There's very, very specifics. And then once they get their building permit issued and they start their work, they have specific threshold inspections that have to be done, and as you know, and if they're not done within 180 days, for example, an inspection, well, then the building permit would be lost. So more than likely, the structure will be completed within 3 years. So,
Thank you.
I support the measure, the change. So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-05, temporary shelters on residential property, minus the 5-foot setback.
Do we have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is ordinance 2025-06, amendment to capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan, first reading and public hearing. City Attorney?
Mayor Commissioners, this is ordinance 2025-06, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan of the City of Madeira Beach to update the capital improvement program, CIP schedule of capital improvements for fiscal years 2025 through 2030, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2025-06 by title only.
Yep, I'll be presenting it. I'll keep it brief because it's something you guys already voted on when you voted on the budget last fall. Basically, because of Florida statutes, we have to put the capital improvements program in our comprehensive plan, and we revise it once a year. Our comprehensive plan, now it's on Municode, so you can see it publicly much easier. And then our planning commission is required to review it, and we did the public hearing, and they approved it to go forward to you guys on February 3rd, 2025. And the fiscal impact is what you guys already adopted last fall. And the planning commission and city staff recommended the approval of ordinance 2025-06. Attached is the ordinance itself, the consistency letter from Fort Pinellas, and the business impact statement that's required by state statute. Thank you.
Do we have any public comment? With no public comment, commissioners?
We've already approved the budget, but I just want to make a statement that just because it's approved in the budget, doesn't mean it's approved. And that I'm really beginning to think that every capital improvement, every purchase, as part of that submission for approval, we should have some sort of confirmation that a grant was at least applied for. Doesn't have to be received, but at least the attempt, it should be applied for. So I know that that's not part of this vote, but I just want to bring that up for an improvement to our process.
Commissioners?
Commissioner Kerr brings up a great point. You know, if we can save money through grants, then I'm all for that.
So how do you apply for a grant? I mean, would you want to have a grant writer maybe on notice or?
That's for the staff in the department to figure out. I mean, it depends, you're going to apply for grants for in different ways, to different places. One of our most recent board meetings, or maybe it was a workshop, it was pointed out that we have access to a grant writer. We haven't heard back, is that a monthly fee? Is that a per occurrence fee? Is that a percentage fee? We don't know. So we want to follow up with that. But, you know, we just approved something that was on the budget, the mini excavator, which I said in the meeting, you know, you need good tools. You need this. But I'm not questioning the value. I'm questioning, can Pennies for Pinellas help offset some of that cost? Are there other grants out there that can help offset some of that cost? Everything that we get in a grant is going to help the residents, and that's
Yes.
what we're up here for.
Yes, for sure, no doubt.
So I'm not-
It's just that.
I
you know,
just,
how
I
do
just
we-
want the effort made.
Yes, how do we get there is what we need to basically formulate.
Right, we're not going to decide that here. I mean, if we need to,
Yeah.
we will, but we need to have that brought to us.
Yes,
If it's an annual fee, then that's something we need to discuss. And, but I want the attempt made, that's all.
no doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Do we have a motion?
I move we approve ordinance 2025-06.
Do we have a second?
Second,
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner Gabayey.
yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is ordinance 2025-07, adult use restrictions, first reading and public hearing. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 2025-07, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, creating Section 110-841 of Subdivision 1 in general of Division 13, Adult Entertainment Uses of Article 6, Supplementary District Regulations of Chapter 110 Zoning of the Code of Ordinances to prohibit persons under the age of 18 to enter, remain, or purchase goods or services at an adult entertainment establishment, to prohibit persons under 21 years of age to be an employee of an adult entertainment establishment, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2025-07 by title only.
All right, and this went to BOC workshop as well. There's a Florida statute which sets that minimum age for employment at adult establishments at 21 years of age, and that was effective January 1st of 2025. So this is really bringing in that Florida statute so that we comply with that state law.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners?
We discussed this at length at the last workshop. I'm fine with this.
I'm in favor of anything that makes it as difficult as possible for an adult use establishment in Madeira Beach.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Madam Mayor, to approve ordinance 2025-07, adult use restriction, first reading and public hearing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gabayey,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is ordinance 2025-08, amendment to fees and collection manual, first reading and public hearing. City Attorney?
Mayor Commissioners, this is ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, adopting a revised Appendix A Fees and Collection Procedures Manual of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, to add a declared disaster sanitation fee, repealing ordinance 2024-22, providing for conflict, codification, severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2025-08 by title only.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This was discussed at the workshop. This is to help those residents that are displaced in their homes and are not currently utilizing our services to drop that down from $38.74 a month to $10 a month. And I'm here for any questions you may have.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners?
I support.
I-
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just in favor. I know that, I know many of my neighbors will appreciate this who can't live in their homes right now.
I'm all in favor of reducing it to the $10. I do have a question, though. When does the city pick up the containers? Once they apply for the $10, for the reduced rate?
Once their application would be approved, we would
Okay.
then mark them in our new system as suspended, and then we would go and pick up the containers.
Okay. And that's both containers?
That is correct.
Okay,
There will be no service during that suspension time.
right. Perfect.
Comments?
I'm in favor.
It's very, very thoughtful of, this city to be hurting with our residents. So I'm in favor of it.
So I would like to make some comments. I have actually spoken with several residents who aren't in favor of us reducing the fee. And one of the questions that I was asked and that I have asked of Megan is, can we afford to not collect $38.74 on 50% of the properties in Madeira Beach and still maintain our public works trash trucks? And here's my thought. I understand that people are displaced from their home, but when you bought your house, you knew that as long as your house was standing, you would pay trash service every month, and that the only way your trash service could be discontinued was if you demolished your home, period. So the budget is built on $38.74 for every house in the city that was a house for this year. And what you're talking about is currently we have 70 plus properties. I think the last count I saw was 75 properties that had full demo permits. So that's 75 properties in Madeira Beach that will no longer be paying. At least 5 of them are commercial, so they were paying more than 78 or more than the minimum $38.74. So they've lost that revenue completely. And if you take every house in Madeira Beach that no one is living in and think about it a little bit differently than just not paying the $38.74. When we vote to reduce that down to $10, their trash cans are going to be picked up. The city will not pick up a palm frond. You can't put any trash out to that road and have it picked up. The logistical nightmare for Megan, I hope everyone up here understands what that does for her. I've sat with her when she was taking the phone calls and weeding through the information that people think, well, I don't have trash anymore, but I still have debris from my tree that's got to be picked up, and they're going to put it out to the road and no one's going to get it. And you're going to get a phone call that they didn't pick up the debris because, they put it out there, but they're not going to pick anything up. Nothing's going to be done. And there will be challenges and there will be complaints and there will be people unhappy because they won't fully understand that. My other concern, so I'm very concerned about the financial side of it, because when you eliminate that dollar amount from the budget, of which people knew they would have to pay no matter what, the truck's not going to quit driving. The number of people that are on that truck is not going to stop. The amount of what we do isn't changing. The truck is still going to run up and down that road. every time it did before. It's just not going to stop at that house. I will say that the new software that Megan has that we voted for is pretty fantastic, because when the driver gets to that location and there's an issue, they're on hold and there's debris out there, they are able to mark it, and she can sit at her desk and look when someone calls and say, well, you don't get, you're on hold. This is, so I think there's going to be a lot of issues that are going to come up. She's got some great tools for her. But again, I do have a concern about where are we going to be if our income drops below what our payout is to run that portion of her department, and how are we going to pay for that? So think about that, because if she comes back before us, and I'm not saying I'm going to vote against it, but I think that everybody here should understand what you're voting for. So if she comes back in 6 months and she's out of money and can't pay her staff because the reduction of $38.74, which I understand can mean a lot to an individual that's not living in their home. So don't take it that I don't recognize that. It also means a lot to a property owner who owns multiple properties in the city, or owns a duplex or a triplex that has 2 or 3 trash cans at one address. But when she comes back, if she has to, and asks for money, remember that we took this money away from her budget, and she'll need that money back. And if she has issues with the community, we need to be super supportive of her and her staff, because I do believe that there will be challenges for you based off what I've seen in just the last few weeks.
Is this reduction it's not indefinite, so can we put a
Well,
time limit
so
on it?
so it says on here, and I'd like to say this so that it's said for the public also, that to get your trash service stopped, you have to have applied for a new building permit. So you can't just have your house sitting there and stop your trash service. You've got to apply for a rebuild permit to be able to get the trash stopped. And then the trash will get stopped until they get their final permit, and then their trash will go back automatically. Correct?
I'm not sure if that's what,
That's-
yeah, I'm sorry,
correct.
yes.
Now I have another question. So it says the fiscal impact is unknown at this time. Has there been just a close summary of like how much we're gonna lose? And I mean, that should be just numbers we could
So-
figure out.
So for every 100 properties, just to simplify, I'm just rounding, so the loss in revenue is approximately $30 per household. So for every, times 12 months is $360. For every 100 properties, that's $36,000. So if it's 500 properties, it's 5 times 36,000. Excuse me, 180,000.
And we're
If
not
we have
sure.
500 properties, but we don't know. We have an idea that there are likely a few hundred that would qualify, but going into the future, there's no way to determine that. Some are still using their cans for trash, and they may want to going forward. Today, I spoke with a lady who walked this morning into City Hall and inquired about what can I do about my utilities, and I explained, well, there's a discussion this evening about lowering the city's trash bill from this amount to this amount. And we did receive one phone call today. So, I mean, they came to the front, to the lobby. So we've probably had, I mean, between Megan and I, probably 20 people call and ask to have their trash, that fee waived completely in reality, but we're proposing just to lower it.
Megan, based on the broad numbers Mr. Gomez gave, and I knew you'd have numbers, does that seem like it's going to be a massive hit to your budget?
I think that it's unknown, honestly.
Still unknown.
It is, because I
That's
feel
safe,
like the
sure.
phone calls ramp up more along whenever people receive their Pinellas County bills. And then they look to, at first, a few months ago, they were still utilizing their sanitation for the removal of small items from their homes. And now maybe if they're in the midst of waiting for a permit or rebuilding, they're not utilizing those services, so they're trying to cut as much as they can. So as Robin said, they're kind of maybe one a day or so, and some of them totally understand and others are a little upset.
I just think that with the number of requirements, specific requirements that have to be in place before this can happen, it's not going to be the worst possible scenario where every single person that's eligible is going to ask that they have their utilities bill reduced. There's going to be some, but I don't think it's going to be the worst possible scenario where everybody. So because of all those conditions, I still feel like this is something we should do.
I have a comment.
Oh, please.
Do you know how many substantial damage letters went out that are going to require rebuilding?
I would defer to the Planning and Zoning Department or Robin for that answer.
We have issued 1,130 substantial damage letters, and a large percentage of those obviously need some type of repair.
Not repair, rebuild.
Or you're asking
Saying
how
over the
many-
50% rule.
How many have been deemed
No,
substantial?
over the 50% rule. What I'm saying is how
I don't
many
have that.
homes are going to be mandated to rebuild?
We will have to come
We
back
can
to you
come-
with
yeah,
that
we
answer. We don't have that.
Okay, because they're gonna, they're gonna have to find a place for those cans, because they're gonna just get stolen as they rebuild their home. We're talking about a reduction of $28.74, not $38.74, because the $10 is to maintain the gas in the trucks, basically. So I don't know how much of that $38.74 is tipping fees, and which you're don't have anymore on that amount. The restrictions are pretty tight. You have to have a demolition permit. If you're repairing your structure, I would imagine the bulk of those individuals are not gonna wanna just discontinue their trash service, because they're only gonna be out for a month or two at most, I would think, and most permits now have been issued. So they want to get back into their home, and they want to, if they're not already back in their home. So if you're gonna demo or raise your home, you really don't have any services, so to pay for a service you're not really receiving, you're paying 25% to maintain just the same way the Pinellas County utilities do. They reduce your water and sewer, but they don't eliminate it because there's a base that they need to keep. And I would remind the board that the sanitation, this line item ran in the deficit for years before the previous commission raised the rates. So the sanitation division's not gonna go away. It would just be supplemented by the general fund. You're not gonna put anybody out of a job.
That's not what I was saying. However, on your $10, so for a house that's completely demoed,
Yeah.
they pay zero. That $10, they pay zero.
That's not the way I
This
understood it.
ordinance is being changed so that we can allow houses that aren't being completely demoed to have their services reduced to $10 a month.
Correct. Because the only way to currently stop the sanitation fees are if a complete demolition permit is received for the property.
Okay, my understanding, okay, thank you for clarifying that. I thought that if you were demoing your home, you still had a maintenance fee. Okay,
No.
thank you for clarifying that.
Mayor, can I make another comment, please? Although I'm in favor of this, I would like to see before the second reading, a kind of a cost evaluation. Can we take the hit? I would like to have that before I make my second vote.
Yeah, we've requested information from Pinellas County, but unfortunately didn't receive it in time, so
Yeah.
we'll have that.
I
for the
mean,
second
just
reading.
use general scenarios. It's not going to be every single person. What's good, somebody with with information can make informed decisions and calculations. So again, I'm in favor of this. By the second vote, I'd like to see a cost evaluation.
Well, this appears to be a tough decision because we want to feel for the residents, but at the same time, we also need to worry about our budget. Could we table this by any chance to get more information and then?
I don't want to
discuss it
table this
later?
because of the advertising.
It's,
So,
it's the first reading. You're going to have a second chance.
Okay, so the second reading will determine exactly what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I said I wanted that cost evaluation, because no matter how I vote here, I might change my mind depending on that.
I just thought that it was important we think about those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, both are valid points also. And, you know, are we flexible with the $10? I mean, can we do it to 18 or 15 or, you know, something like that? We can just, you know, take a look at those numbers also. If we can come to some sort of a halfway agreement, you know, that still helps the citizens of Madeira Beach, but also brings money into the sanitation department. So we don't really have to stick at 10. We can move it around a little bit, so.
and you can do that at the second reading. We would just make note of that and finalize, just so long as, you know, we don't increase it
Right.
when we're saying we're decreasing it, so.
So one last thing, there's no timeline on this. I mean, I understand that when you get a permit for a remodel, that the permit only lasts so long, but you could extend it. So I'd like to see a timeline on it. We put a timeline on the recreational vehicles. So there should be a timeline here so that a resident doesn't just extend out the permit. I mean, I can't imagine somebody doing that, but there's always the chance that someone would.
Occupancy permit, once you get your occupancy.
No. I'm saying that if somebody gets a permit but doesn't do the work, and they're just letting their property sit there and using the permit as a placeholder.
If the permit expires, then we go back to billing them. It has to be an active permit. But you stated if they continue to
Right.
extend, I think we would address that with with the property owner and find out what they're looking to do. But I understand what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
really up to you if you want to set a timeline. I think we're going to review this, just like the permit fees that was set for
Right.
1 year. We're going to review that later this year. We can certainly do that with this and bring you back and give you periodic updates as to where we are.
Where
and
we are.
What has
Okay.
happened.
So do we have a motion?
I move, we approve ordinance 2025-08, fees and collections manual.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Gavalle,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
We have no unfinished business, so next on the agenda is contracts and agreements, Public Works, Satellite Building Department Design.
Good evening again. As we spoke about in the workshop, I am bringing forth the cost to start engineering services for the Public Works / satellite buildings / possible fire department training facilities over at our current Public Works yard located at 505 150th Avenue. With this, we will have the mechanic will come back onto the island. The current idea is to have 3 bays, one of which will be able to fit the fire trucks and also the garbage trucks, and then to permanently have the mechanic on this side of the island. I know it may seem like Bay Pines isn't too far, but in all reality, in the midst of the afternoon travel, it is a nightmare to get over there, not to mention it's highly dangerous. So we would then, currently myself and Ally are here at City Hall temporarily and really would love to move back over to where my staff is. So that would house a office for myself, a lobby area with a reception area, a break room, because currently the Public Works Department does not have an AC or heat or a bathroom facility where we currently are. So in the midst of 1,000 degrees outside, my staff doesn't get to cool down. And whenever it's freezing outside, if there's a room here at City Hall, we have lunch over here. And when I say we, I join them every day for lunch. So we would really love to be able to build a building to house all of those items and to be able to have just a better working Public Works Department.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners?
I'll start.
It's- Sorry. It looks like of a budget of 1.5 million, but engineering services is offering to do it for 62,000. Am I reading that wrong?
No, we have $500,000 in the building department and $1 million in the Public Works Department, but this is just for the design services. Once we
Okay,
complete the design
okay.
service, we'll then go out to bid for construction.
Got it, got it.
So we're hoping that we would start construction
I knew that
in
was
this
too good to be
fiscal year.
true. Yeah.
Um, In an earlier segment, we were looking at budgets, and we have a budget of $1 million this year and $1 million next year, for a total of $2 million for this Public Works Building Services Facility. I'm all about supporting Public Works and fire, but I also ran on making this marina, which is the entrance to our city, something more than an industrial location, industrial look. I know we've looked for property for the Public Works, but I don't know that we've hired a real estate agent in any of those months or years that we've looked. Maybe you can address that. So the only time property has become available is when I brought to the attention of a couple of properties that were off-site, and we made a lot of inroads on one of those, but it was sold out from under us. So I can't support it being here. Now, that being said, if the other, I'm only one voice, and if the other four commissioners, or everyone else on the board wanted to vote this in, my only input would be to try to position this building instead of in the middle of what is called now the Public Works area, to be pushed to the seawall or something, to be able to still try to maximize the marina area and make it what I envision, which would be a location that guests and residents could appreciate and enjoy, not a working marina. Why is the building positioned as it is? I mean, how much of this area is actually going to have engineering as far as a boring, the geo boring, to see where the building could be, or how many pilings would be needed, or the foundation structure. I remember seeing this years ago in a board meeting, and this is a metal building. How much geoengineering do you need for a metal building?
It will not be a metal building. It will be a concrete building. And the boring samples are included on the engineering.
Right, but it would just be for the footprint of the building then?
Correct.
Right. Well, why does the building have to be in the middle of the space? Why couldn't it be near the seawall?
Drive-through bays and for other storage and other areas working of the yard. We have many different things that happen in that Public Works yard that we have to make sure that whenever we design that building and the layout of that building works with the best possibility of what we are. I know that that area may seem like it's quite large, but in all reality, for what we are currently utilizing it for, it gets very tight in there. And we already have boats in there, and they've hit our vehicles several times, so.
Yeah, and I'm against having the boats in there. It should be, in my opinion, it should be an attraction, it shouldn't be just a storage yard. I mean, it's the first thing you see when you come over the bridge. And previous boards have tried to hide it with solid fencing. It makes it, to me, it looks like a salvage yard. And that's the first thing you see when you come in, I couldn't make it to the meeting on the 28th here. I had a granddaughter be born that day. And, but I did watch it, and I believe that the residents, this was one of the things that they, you know, that they talked about when we just come across the bridge, and this is our entrance to our city, and I mean, it wasn't highlighted a lot during that meeting, but it's one of the parts of the master plan. But once it's there, so it'll be there forever. And I can't support it being there. I don't think we've taken our due diligence in trying to find a location that's not in the marina grounds. And you've said yourself, I'm tired of waiting. I get it. But I don't know that we've taken the actions to try to find a property that's more suitable.
We have, just to make a point to that, we've gone the Madeira Beach garage when it was for sale. It was sold out from underneath us. Then Garrett Plumbing, it was sold out from underneath us. And we've spent countless money, I can't even tell you, on different appraisals to purchase properties, to look at properties to purchase. And they've all sold from underneath us. So we have taken time to look for properties that would be suitable
Well,
for,
maybe we need to look at the way we're buying property. How come it keeps getting sold out from under us? If it's the process, we need to be able to at least, and, you know, Robin and I have talked about it, the city has to have a way to at least get a deposit or a letter of intent as it goes through the process for approval.
I can't change what the properties have sold for now, but we can't purchase a property to try to make it utilized for what we need it for. If it won't work, it will just be a waste of money.
But we've never had have we ever had a realtor looking for property for us?
I've reached out to Mike Wyckoff. He had property for sale, but unfortunately was letters of intent on both of them.
That's just my input.
Commissioners? Comments?
Do we have competitive fees? Did you have to get another, like, 3 bids for this project?
This is one of our engineer of records. We went out to bid in 2023, I believe, for these engineer of records.
To Commissioner Kerr's statement, just looking at the geotechnical report, it just seems a bit high. You know, having a couple of, let's say, 5 borings, it just seems pretty high as far as cost for that geotechnical. The rest of it, I don't have any problem, but the geotechnical seems to be just way up there. And as far as meeting FEMA, would this be flood-proofed or will this be flood-proof?
It would be dry flood proof. It would meet all of the standards. We've already met with Jenny, talked about what we would need to have. We would ensure that it would meet all the standards, all of our codes.
Mhm. And you'd have to bring water and sewer to it? Well, you have restrooms, obviously, right?
There used to be a building on that property, and it was demolished back in 2010, 2011, because the city didn't want to spend the money to repair the roof leak. So instead of repairing the roof leak, they decided to demolish that building and then combine the marina and public works under the same director. So then the public works director, marina director worked out of the marina until in 2019, I believe, it was separated again. And then the marina was its own department and public works were separated. So it's been through quite some change. But for as long as we've known, that's been the public works yard where it currently sits.
So there will be, I mean, there's gravity sewer available?
There is sewer on there already, water lines and sewer lines already, correct.
Okay, and fire hydrant for fire protection?
There's a fire hydrant on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
We had discussed doing a lot of different things with the marina as far as making it more accessible to the citizens or people that wanted to come into the city. And I agreed, I totally agree with you with the amount of work that you do that you need your own building, definitely. Now, my question is this whole, do you need, I mean, have you really, excuse me, you need that whole space there?
We currently utilize that whole space, yes,
All that space there?
yes. And in order to bring the mechanic back over here, we have to have a certain amount of space,
Okay,
bays for him to work in.
okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So I have a few things that I'd like to say. First off, I know that you're not responsible for the Marina Yard. However, the Marina Yard sure has come a long way over the last several years.
Sure has.
And it did used to look like a hodgepodge mess, and it sure does not anymore. I mean, I stand on my balcony at my house and I look at it, and the changes are amazing. When Commissioner Kerr brought up the residents bringing up coming over the bridge and his comments on coming over the bridge and what you see, when you come over the bridge, you have the fish house that we have no control over how that place looks. And it is full of derelict boats and fishing boats. So I hope that people don't see that. And I have no issue whatsoever with that fish house, because a working fish house in my mind is a wonderful thing in our city. That's what built this city, is the fishermen. So when you come across and you see that, people should be mindful that that's not the city. That is somebody else's private property, and how they maintain their yard is on them. And then the next building that you see is the pump station, that we also have no control over how that looks or how that is maintained, or whether it is an eyesore. And then you come to the exterior of the marina lot, which I think they have done a really nice job. Krabby has done a really nice job there in keeping it maintained. It's orderly. When there are fisher people come in and they park their vehicles there with their trailers during the day, it's kept nice. It's maintained well. The fence looks good. The fence is necessary for protection of the boats that are in the boatyard. So I don't foresee us ever having a time where there's no fence there, because it locks. So that gate closes at night and locks, and it locks not only for the protection of those boats that are stored there, but also for the protection of the people who live on their boats in our marina legally. I've been to the Public Works Yard. I've watched you work over there, and I see the equipment, and I mean, that's where you store all the trash cans, and the building that they have currently to work out of is abysmal. It is just, I mean, it flooded during the hurricane. So, and I do know that you've looked and tried to make arrangements for other properties in the city. And I see, I mean, we don't know what you will present us in a building, but I can see where this building could be a beautiful building that's placed there, and beauty doesn't cost any more than ugly. It's just how you make it look and paint it, right? So, I mean, we've paid rent off the island for how many years?
2010, 11?
And we have, you've been looking for property for that many years.
Me personally, I've been looking for property for 3 or 4 years.
4 years, okay. So, I mean, I do think that it's time that we make a decision and make a move forward. There, in a previous administration, there was talk and look about building a marina, and that was found to be not cost-effective. So we know that that is not something. The other thing I want to bring up is that, and it was in our last meeting, there was a conversation about having a restaurant at the marina. And it was found that we can't have a restaurant at the marina. Even though that building was built to have a restaurant put on top of it, there is a condition in our lease agreement with,
It's in the deed.
it's in the deed, that we can't do that. So I think that it would be good and mindful of us to put that out of our minds of what we could or couldn't do there. There's things we're not going to be able to do there. It is the way it is. It's the way it was written many years ago. and that's not changing. When it comes to beautification, there's lots of things we can do for beautification. Somebody brought up in the Saturday meeting, having picnic tables and things like that for people to be able to come to the marina. There are picnic tables at the marina. There are beautiful tables that you can sit out on the deck and watch the water, and so it's already there. Utilizing it is just a matter of making that something with the rec department or the marina, starting some new, but that doesn't have anything to do with what we're voting on today. What we're voting on today is Public Works having a proper building to be able to work out of. And when I first looked at it, I had the same question, well, why is this stinking building sitting right in the middle of the piece of property? And then it dawned on me that the only way you would get the vehicles in and out is you would need the drive-through bay. And I think it's exciting to have the possibility of the fire department over there doing training, to have something else for them. We took away their gym, so they'll gain something else, and that's wonderful. I support it. Do we have a motion?
I'm not.
I move
Ma'am,
that we
I wanna
approve.
comment.
You want to comment? Okay.
Okay. Yes, the mayor's absolutely right. The property is broken up into different sections. None of those sections say we cannot have a restaurant. They say it has to be in the interest of the fishermen, or how it's phrased in a different way. And just because decades ago that was, we talked about petitioning the state or whoever to be able to still have a restaurant or other facilities that would supplement the fishermen. It's all about the fishermen. They want to keep it as a working marina. I get that. But there's nothing in there that says we can't have a restaurant, as far as I recall. The question on this engineering, have we applied for any grants?
Robin, we've applied for state funding for this.
Yes, for
2
an
years ago.
appropriation.
Okay, for the engineering and for the.
For
building.
the building, for the construction. We can either, it would probably most likely be construction of the building.
Okay, can we apply for it's $100,000 in $90,000 in engineering? Can we apply for that grant? That's not a small sum.
We can look into it.
Okay. And I'm not picking on you, just you have most of the capital requirements in being in Public Works, but that's going to be an ongoing theme about grants, so. That's really my 2 comments. Thank you.
Anything further? Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the engineering proposal with Panoni for the Public Works building in the amount of $60,050.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabelli,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
No.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-1.
Next on the agenda is AAA Florida Traffic Safety Grant. Chief?
Yes. All right, promise last time you'll see me up here tonight.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah, before you is the AAA safety grant. We were fortunate enough to receive it last year. We got the hydro painting machine that parking uses, Public Works uses. We used it for marking off various areas. This year, Fire Marshal Perez applied for it again, and usually that doesn't happen to get it 2 years in a row, but he was fortunate enough to do that. And what that includes is 5 portable reflective speed bumps, 5 additional reflective collapsible cones, 1 3-foot diamond-shaped road sign with a 4-foot stand that reads "Emergency Ahead," 2 electric vehicle plug-in to shut down the battery current through the. It's an electric vehicle, like you plug it into the plug to charge it and it deactivates it, is essentially what that is. And so after Helene and Milton, that's probably going to be used the most, those 2 plugs. But yeah, that's what is presented to you this evening.
Do we have any public comment? Commission, any comments, questions?
Great job, Chief.
Thank you, thank you. And again, stuff that we could use for the Wednesday morning markets or anything else, you know, it doesn't have to be strictly pigeonholed into the fire department. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the AAA Florida Traffic Safety Grant.
Do we have a second?
Second?
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gavayi.
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is approve the saltwater destination agreement, Second Amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commission, this is the item for our beach equipment concessionaire. They provide chairs and umbrellas out in front of, at Archibald Park on the sand. This is their second amendment, an extension, a 5-year agreement from October of 24 through October of 2029. Really there are no other changes. The agreement remains the same as previously. The National Park Service had no issues with continuing the 5-year agreement. It's our intent at the conclusion that we will issue a request for proposals.
Do we have any public comment? City Commission comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Saltwater Destination Beach Equipment Concessions Agreement.
Do we have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gavayi,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is rebuilding Madeira Beach, advanced engineering.
Yes, Mayor and Commission, we discussed, this will be I believe the third time or at the third meeting, our process as we were concluding, or as our engineer of record, advanced engineering, was concluding our watershed management plan. They did point out that it would be a good time after the 2 storms to begin to address the future of the possibilities, the tools, the strategies that we may use to alleviate future flooding in our city. As I've had discussions with all on the commission, this is obviously going to, due to rising sea levels and other components, we're going to see more just tidal, king tide or high tide flooding. That has continued to increase over the last 20+ years, and it's forecasted it will continue through at least 2050. So at this point, this item is to contract with an engineer of record, advanced engineering and design, to proceed to do the study to give us really the tools, the possibilities, what could we use in the future to help alleviate, whether that's a combination of fill with elevating more structures, elevating roads, all of those tools and strategies. So that's the item. The funding is from our stormwater fund, so it's not out of the general fund, where I believe it's a 4-month project, 4 or 5 months. I think the schedule's on here. And our engineer of record is here, Justin, who presented the last couple of times, and his staff. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners?
I'm happy to see this come before the board. Just like our master plan, you have to have a plan. And I think this would present that opportunity. And now that so many homes are going to be rebuilt or elevated in our community, that there's no time like the present to get this implemented. If we do come to some understandings of some base ground levels, elevations for homes, that we get this discussed, the sooner the better. And I support the plan.
Commissioners?
I also support this. I think it's going to be a great team with advanced engineering and Madeira Beach. I'm looking forward to this, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Justin made an amazing presentation last time. Advanced Engineering is a very good team, good firm. Design is going to be challenging, and I know Justin and his team will be able to do a good job for us. We need to obviously keep the floors, or not necessarily habitable floors, but garage floors as high as possible, and it has to be in relationship to the road and the slope and so forth and so on. So it will be challenging, but I'm confident that Justin and his team can handle that.
I had conversation with Jenny this week, and I had a lot of questions, and a lot of them had come out of conversations with residents about the process, and we all know you have to start somewhere. And it would have been wonderful to have done this a year ago or 2 years ago, but what I did get out of our conversation that I really thought was very encouraging is, given the timeline that we have and where we are today, because our ordinances allow fill and the way that it's worded is vague, once this study is complete and it all comes back, of course, to implement it, we'll have to do ordinances and all such as that. But what Jenny and her team will get is an understanding of what type of fill we can go with. You correct me if I get this wrong now. And that, so come June or July, people who are submitting for permits on houses, we will be able to implement what's coming out of this study long before we actually write the ordinances. So we're going to capture this. There's 75 currently, 5 are commercial. So there's 70 homes in Madeira that are currently slated to be demolished and rebuilt. And it's very likely that we'll capture the majority of those homes in this study and be able to have them as part of the buildup. So I think that's pretty fantastic. I thought that was a good takeaway from the meeting that we had, and so I support it. Anything further? Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve rebuilding Madeira Beach, Advanced Engineering.
Do we have a second?
A second?
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gabai,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is Emergency Bridge Loan Program Request for Application.
Great, thank you. When we discussed this at the workshop, this seemed to meet with resounding approval by simply the concept of an interest-free loan. So this would be covering our operating shortfalls due to hurricane damage. All I'm requesting at this point is that you provide me with the authorization to go through the application process. We're not going to commence any sort of debt obligation at that point. We're just going to apply, go through that process, and then come back to you for another approval based on more of the specifics in terms of potential amount, and then terms of repayment and so on and so forth. So hoping this will be a slam dunk, as we discussed before. But yes, want to confirm that it's a two-step process, and this is for an interest-free borrowing from the state through this emergency bridge loan program. We'll answer questions if you have any.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners, questions?
Mr. Laughlin, you outdid yourself on this one. Thank you.
Sweetheart
No,
deal.
this is there's no downside in my opinion.
Commissioners?
Great job.
Can't beat free money, free interest money.
With that, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the emergency bridge loan program.
Do we have a second?
Second?
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay.
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is new business, Resolution 2025-01, Public Records Exemption for Municipal Clerks and Employees who perform municipal elections work or have a part in code enforcement functions of the city. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Resolution 2025-01, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, urging the Florida State Legislature to enact legislation to provide a public records exemption for municipal clerks and employees who perform municipal elections work or have any part in the code enforcement functions of a city, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was reading Resolution 2025-01 by title only. As some background on this, this has been circulating amongst the cities here statewide, here and in statewide. The basic idea is to give the city clerk the same exemption that a lot of code enforcement officers, human resource, city managers, a lot of other individuals have protections, but the city clerk does not. And as you know, and you have seen in federally, how elections workers have been challenged and threatened. This is one way of protecting our city clerk and her staff, if we can get this exemption passed. And just as a reminder, when you look at the public records statute, you know, it's only about a page or two long, and there are about 20 pages of exemptions that we apply when we have a public records request. So there are a significant amount of exemptions. Why the city clerk is not included, I don't know. My recommendation is approval for this to protect Clara and her staff. So it would merely be that they would protect, for example, her home address, and it all depends how that is actually worded, but it could be the home address, telephone numbers, name, and other information that would allow individuals to find our city clerk at home, or our deputy city clerk at home, which we don't want. So, and I don't know if Claire has any additional information that she wants to provide. I will tell you that this resolution has been adopted recently in one of the other cities that I represent. I'm looking forward to it being adopted here too.
Not to say, in the past, there were a couple of times that I had been threatened. And one, I lived in the city and I moved. I don't think it's a good idea for clerks to live in the city where they do their elections because of what happens. But this exemption would really help a lot.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners, comments?
It seems like a good idea to me.
Makes great sense.
Definitely.
Yep, pretty straightforward.
And do we have a motion?
Move that we pass Resolution 2025-01, Public Records Exemption for municipal clerks and employees who perform municipal elections work.
Do we have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay.
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next on the agenda is City Manager post-storm work.
Yeah, if you
Can I
wanna
start?
proceed.
So I asked Robin for this because we all received an email from him giving us some dates that he and his family stayed at City Hall after Hurricane Helene. And the reason I wanted to discuss it here in the open, in the sunshine, for public record to know, is that we're all aware that after Helene hit, our city manager lost his home, and he stayed at City Hall for a number of weeks. He is not living in City Hall, as has been portrayed on social media. I don't consider that he ever lived here. He stayed here, and I was here every day with him, And I witnessed what he did, and I want the public to know what he was doing. So for those days that he was staying at City Hall, sleeping on a blow-up mattress on the floor in his office, that his wife and daughter stayed a few nights here and there with him, he was here working until late hours at night. He was opening the Comfort Center in the morning for residents to be able to have a place to come and get cold drink and ice and charge their phones. He virtually was working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it really, really appalls me that anyone would want to tarnish him and say things that aren't true when he was serving the community day in and day out, 7 days a week. And he's not perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't think, y'all might think y'all are perfect, but I'm here to tell you. But he was here and dedicated to this community, and he offered for people to stay here at City Hall if they didn't have a place to stay. He offered residents a haven, and I think we should be commending him and not trying to tear him down for it. And I really just felt like it was important because social media, and I've said more than one time, several times up here, that I bring up topics that are in social media because it's a terrible place that people go and they will fester things that just aren't true. And when things like that happen, I want to bring it out into the public because I want to try to stop it. I know we can't control all social media. We can't control all the negativity that's in our community, but we should stand beside our city manager and stand up for him because he stood beside and up for all of us. And I appreciate that, and I wanted us to be able to say that publicly.
I could just take a step further and say that he worked 7 days a week for many weeks in a row and did not charge us overtime. I mean, I think it's appalling, some of the comments that I don't subscribe to that social media, but people send them to me.
Yes.
Just appalling. They have no information about what actually happened. So thank you, Mr. Gomez, for all that hard work.
Mayor, and as always, thank you for your continued support, and it was just a tough situation, but we're moving through it, and the staff has been, excuse me, obviously helping out quite a bit, and I couldn't be happier to have all the staff. I know most of them left for the day, but I really do appreciate them, appreciate your support. So
And
thank
just
you.
for the record, there's no mattress in his office anymore. He deflated the blow up.
Yeah,
It's gone.
it's stored. Hopefully
Can I
not
make
to be
a
used again.
Hopefully you'll never need it again.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
While he was staying here, a lot of the nights, because I was in the Laserfish project, they had just built it out, and I was trying to work out a lot of, find a lot, what needed to be straightened out and everything, because it was new. But I worked very late, and Robin was still working.
Yep.
He was on the phone with people, working on his computer, and I'm telling you, I didn't see him laying on a mattress or anything, but I saw him sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning still working. So I got to say, he does work tirelessly to help people. He really does. And I would tell him, you need to go home and rest or, whatever, but he put the city first.
Yes, he did.
And I thought that was wonderful.
Thank you.
The city is blessed to have you, Robin.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
are.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the agenda setting for February 26th, and I'll just hand that over to you, Robin.
Right, so this is, excuse me, Mayor and Commission, on February 26th, we will have a joint workshop, the Board of Commissioners with our Civil Service Commission, that will begin at 4 o'clock. And that's mainly to go over essentially the finalized employee personnel policy and three ordinances. One, the personnel policy, the Civil Service Commission duties, and then a process for post-termination hearings and the hearing officer. So that'll be on February the 26th, beginning at 4 p.m. For that joint workshop. Then, if you want me to go to
Go
any
on to the-
questions or?
I don't have any. Any questions?
Then the agenda setting for our next workshop 2 weeks from today, and I apologize, some of these are kind of repeated, but we will have a post-hurricane update as we have on the recovery, rebuild, where we are with permitting, any updates from FEMA, the Florida Division of Emergency Management, et cetera. Discussion on an information officer, possibility for the city to have a kind of like a public information officer in future budgets. The task force committee, I think, was brought up by a couple of commissioners in the past, so we can discuss that. Key to the city discussion. We will have a fiscal 25 financial update from Andrew, as well as look at all of our storm damage assessment, and that'll include all the department heads to give updates on where we are with damages such as this building, the rec center, the marina, et cetera. All the majority of that is public works, but we'll have that update. City street ends project, they are city street ends in the Boca Ciega neighborhood that we have discussed in the past. Kind of took a little bit of a pause due to the storms. Now we're looking to finalize. We do have one change that is being proposed. We will discuss that during the workshop. Purchase invitation to bid for rear load replacement dumpsters, and then dumpster purchase approval. I don't see Megan, but I think they are two separate items.
Robin, could we get, just to have an update on the jetty, the dredging, and the
sure.
military court of honor?
Do that, all three of those.
Yeah. Any questions, commissioners, on that? Next on the agenda is reports and correspondence, Board of Commissioners 2025 BOC meeting schedule.
Mayor, if I might,
Yes.
I've come across an unexpected conflict with our April meetings. If you look at April, we're supposed to meet with a regular meeting on the 9th, and then on the 23rd, we have a budget workshop and a regular workshop. Those are the only 2 days that I have those conflicts. I could go the Wednesday before or the Wednesday after on either one. So what I'm asking is if the board would consider moving April from the 9th to the 16th and the 23rd to the 30th. That still leaves us a week between our next meeting. That would get rid of all my conflicts. Or you could go the weeks before, April 2nd and April 16th. You could go, so any day but the 9th and 23rd, any Wednesday.
So I could do the 2nd and the 16th. I couldn't do the 30th.
As one.
That's my input. How does that for?
I'm also flexible.
Mayor, I have a conflict on the 16th. I have the Safety Harbor Code Enforcement Board that begins at 6:30. I could do the other. Or I can have someone cover the meeting for me, whatever is your choice.
I don't know of any conflicts.
Thank you, colleagues. I appreciate that.
So just to clarify, we would have the commission regular meeting on Wednesday, April the 2nd, beginning at 6 p.m. And then our budget workshop and regular workshop meeting would be on Wednesday, April the 16th. Budget workshop beginning at 4 p.m. and the regular workshop at 6 p.m. That seems good?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Clara will update the calendar and we'll update it everywhere.
Any other comments on the calendar?
So I will have to have someone cover the 16th.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
They won't be able to fill your shoes. So next on the agenda is city attorney.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to,
Oh,
just real quick. I'm sorry. Today is Commissioner Kerr's birthday, so wanted to
oh,
wish him a happy birthday.
you should have asked to have this meeting rescheduled.
No, he wanted you to say happy birthday.
Also, happy Valentine's Day. um, I think we're a member of Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, who attends that?
I do.
Do you attend that?
Would you like to?
No. I served on that board for 6 years, and it's a wonderful board. They're great people. Just wanted to just be sure someone was serving on that board. And then one other item I have here, and it's been a subject of, talking to citizens and things in that nature, as far as the limitation for the city manager's spending. Is that something we need to set on the schedule to discuss at some point, or?
I'm just curious, Commissioner, do they want to raise it or lower it? Because we didn't, it wasn't that long ago we had a conversation about it, I feel.
There were some changes made to the procurement ordinance, specifically bidding out. We removed the professional services exemption from our ordinance, but there were no changes made to the level, the spending levels. So, I mean, pretty much we're at, I think it's 2,500, or anything under 2,500 or 5,000. I'd have to look at the, or Andrew might know, but anything under that just simply requires, can be done just a regular purchase. Most of those are done using the city's purchasing cards. Then up to 30,000 just requires the 3 quotes. Anything over 30,000 requires a bid.
Right.
So I can only approve purchases up to $29,999.99 based on the departments having obtained 3 quotes for purchases exceeding
It's 5,000, 5 to 30.
5,000, between 5,000 to 29,999.99. So anything over 30,000 must be bid out. There are certain exceptions if it's a sole source, emergency, those types of exceptions to it, or utilizing an existing bid. But yeah, I mean, however, if you want to discuss it at a future workshop, I'm fine with that.
Just a thought. So again, there are a lot of people talking out there, and it's just good to put it out there in the public, and they can all see.
I'm very familiar with this discussion because we haven't, it was just on the last board that we had this discussion. I think continue to listen to your residents. But it's not an old ruling. We've talked about it in the last couple of years.
You want to have a discussion about that?
Well, I mean, just to bring some sort of a comfort level to the residents.
For an
that's all.
understanding of the process and all that? Yeah, okay. That's not a bad idea.
You want me to add it to the next workshop?
Yes, if you would.
Also, I think it's important, the sooner the better as the weather gets warmer, that we address in the near future the mosquito control as it gets warmer, and the pools, that the abandoned houses that still have their pools full. Now they're black and with barnacles in them. They make perfect areas for mosquitoes to breed, and that definitely could affect our children, our pets, and Madeira Beach citizens. So the sooner the better for that.
And that's actively with our code enforcement.
Yeah.
They're going out and identifying. They actually went on the boat this past week to identify specifically docks and seawalls, but I think they did identify a couple of pools, as you stated, Commissioner. So, but that's an ongoing for code enforcement.
Anything further? Now, City Attorney.
Thank you. As you know, the city had filed a lawsuit against Wanamaker Jensen and Hennessy Construction for issues that have been occurring at the fire station and at the rec center. We've so far had 3 mediations. The last mediation was fairly successful. We'd like to bring to you a settlement proposal to settle that litigation. I'm asking for a shade meeting to be set to discuss those settlement negotiations on February 26th at 3 PM. So if it's scheduled correctly, you would have the shade meeting from 3 to 4. From 4 to 6, you would have the joint workshop with the Civil Service Commission, and at 6 PM, you would have your normal or regular workshop meeting. I don't expect the shade meeting to take more than an hour. Those people that will be present will obviously be the commission, the city manager, myself, and one of the attorneys from Carlton Fields who's been representing the city in the litigation, and he will bring us up to speed and hopefully get some direction from you. If we're successful in getting some direction, then we'll be bringing it back to you for settlement approval at the March 12th commission meeting. So any objections to the shade meeting on February 26th at 3 PM?
Tom, I'll be coming in hot that day from work, and I won't be here till just in time for the 4 o'clock workshop. Is it possible to have, I don't know if you ever do it with just one-on-one, or is it a requirement that everybody be there?
It is not a requirement that everybody be there, but I do have to have at least 3 of the commission there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about the settlement anytime before then or after then, if you're not able to make it.
Thank you.
Any objections to that time and date?
I don't have an issue.
All right, thanks. So we'll go ahead and send the notice out then, and we'll be prepared for that meeting.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is City Clerk Report, February 2025.
Yes. As you can see, I did an annual report, a meeting report for the Board of Commissioners, so I hope you had an opportunity to look at that. And I can modify it how you please. And I added the ordinance index and the resolution index, and I thought that would be very helpful, referring back to things. And I've also added these two with the ordinance indexes and the resolution indexes, of course, is in Laserfish. And I want to do this every year for the Board of Commissioners and just keep it going at each meeting. Do you have any ideas or what you would like to see or
I think
changes?
this
You
looks,
just let me
this
know.
is really good. A lot of
I'm
good
here to
information
please.
all in one place.
Yeah, I try to group all the items together. If you got, explains what agreements and contracts we approved, and going through the minutes, anything that got added at the meeting is there. And what you visited. And then before the workshop items, I have our ongoing list at each regular meeting of what topics you want discussed at the workshops. And you can just go through, I'd like to talk about that again, or we haven't got to that yet, but we pretty much do cover everything, but at least when. And we have regular meeting indexes. Of course, it's real big. I would have converted it down, but I'm going to get it in Laserfish. It goes way back, and it's we keep it current every time we have a meeting, everything that's approved and not approved, but it's meetings and everything, in order of the agenda. But this one groups it together. I thought it would be nice. Thank you.
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Mayor and Commissioner, I
comprehensive.
do want to mention, I think Clara mentioned briefly, the Laserfish project that's nearly complete. We'll have a considerable amount of documents, information, history. Clara and her staff have done a great job in compiling, adding it, and hopefully within the next, Clara, what your timeframe will be ready.
Yes, well,
We'll
we're
go
working on
live.
it every day. It is live.
It's
though.
live, I'm sorry.
Yes, it is live. And then you look on it every day, you'll find new information. It's like, yesterday and today, of course, we had a server maintenance last night, so which hindered a lot of it, but that's okay. I'm adding a lot of, I always get questions about the snack shack at Archibald. So that's in the project one. Laura's working on everything before 2007. I'm in the 2007 afterwards, and we're doing a summary from the beginning of A to Z on the snack shack and Archibald. I thought that was very important. And at the same time, we have all the ordinances in there, all the resolutions in there, all the minutes, and I've just got a few more ad hoc meetings, like for the marina and the library, to get those in there, but a lot of stuff is in there. And then we'll start working on getting all the contracts and things like that. And we'll keep up on every item that the Board of Commissioner approves, and it'll be in there. And that will like relieve our server a little bit, I think. And the good thing about it is, if we ever got a new website or something, we wouldn't have to worry about pulling everything off the website. We would have it right there. And the new providers, you know, they just connect it. They connect our softwares and stuff like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and just again, thank you for your continued support, and thank you to all the staff that continue to address hurricane recovery and certainly getting folks steps to get them back into their homes, which has and continues to be our priority. A reminder, speaking of homes, please remember to lock your vehicles, lock your homes when you're not in your home, but please lock your vehicles. Although I'm not somebody who purports to, I'll just flat out say, to store firearms in my vehicle. I do, and of course it is a legal process that does allow folks to do that, but please, if you do that, please lock the firearm and please lock your vehicle. We recently had some burglaries and various weapons were stolen out of unlocked vehicles in a few parts of the city, so please do that. I will have, it appears at the March workshop, we do have new Pinellas County Sheriff's Office staff. Some of you may have seen some of them, but I will have Captain Melvin Jackson took over for retired Mike Liner, who retired after 35 or 36 years. He was about 10 when he started. But Captain Jackson to just introduce himself to all of you and go over a little bit of the staffing. Really nothing much has changed. I will say that the staff that took over essentially around January 15th are, some of them have worked out here before, so they're familiar, so that's very helpful. But I've already had a few residents say, boy, what happened to the deputies, because they got a lot bigger, a lot taller and just stronger. So and anyway, that just visually seeing some of the deputies are a little bit taller, a little bit bulk, a little, not overweight, but just built, muscular, thank you. So that we'll have that at the March workshop. And again, we will begin our budget process and we will begin to have budget workshops. So there'll be a lot of information. As I've stated before, we do have still some unknowns. We're hopeful that by April, we will know the effects of the property tax refunds from the property appraiser and the tax collector. And then of course, as we progress through the spring into the summer, we will have our tax roll for next year, which, as I've stated several times, will likely have some impact, but we will just deal with it as it approaches. But thanks to Andrew, we'll have the interest-free loan, so that'll be something to look forward to. Other than that, thank you. Oh, and final thing, this morning the county reported to me the Elevate Florida. In the first 2 days, the website is now open and they're began accepting applications. In the first 2 business days, over 12,500 applications were submitted, approximately 700 and change from Pinellas County. So, which I thought would be a little bit more, but it's a significant, and again, the Elevate Florida is to provide potentially financial assistance for folks to either elevate their homes or tear down and build a new one, or potentially to sell their property. So, but we'll have more information at the workshop.
Yeah, because it does, yeah, we'll wait till the workshop.
Yeah, but just that was what was provided this morning. Just thought I'd share the data. Other than that, thank you.
Anything further?
Just real quick, once again, happy birthday to our Commissioner Kerr over here, and also a proud grandpa again, so congratulations on that. and to the young lady who's attending tonight. She goes to St. Petersburg College. She's studying public policy, and if you're out there listening tonight, you did a great job. And it took a lot of strength and courage to come in front of the board. And thank you so much for those compliments. That was very impressive. Thank you.
With that, it is 8:19 and we are adjourned.